Welcome to the Mental Flow Show. This is your space to nurture mental health, wellness, and discover your inner glow. So grab a cozy spot, take a breath, and let's dive into the journey of glowing from within.
Ever feel like you're on a treadmill and you just can't get off? Like always striving, always pushing to be the best version of yourself.
Oh, tell me about it.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into that feeling.
Okay.
We're going to explore why the whole self-improvement thing can be downright exhausting.
Yeah.
We've got two sources for you.
Okay.
A traditional article called The Exhaustion of Constant Self-Improvement,
Mm-hmm.
and then some snippets from a life coaching website called Titan's Canvas.
Interesting.
Their whole deal is this permission slip philosophy, which already sounds kind of intriguing. Right?
It really does challenge the conventional self-improvement narrative. What's fascinating is that both sources acknowledge this, like widespread feeling of burnout. It's like the pressure to constantly optimize ourselves is backfiring.
Yeah, instead of feeling empowered, a lot of us are just ending up exhausted.
Right.
So let's dig into why this is happening. One thing that jumps out from both sources is this idea of unrealistic expectations. I don't know about you, but I've definitely fallen into that trap of thinking I need to overhaul my entire life overnight.
It's such a common pitfall, and it's almost guaranteed to lead to disappointment. You set these massive goals without a realistic plan for getting there, and then you end up feeling like a failure when you inevitably fall short.
And then there's a whole perfectionism thing. I feel like that's a huge contributor to this self-improvement fatigue. It's like you're constantly chasing this elusive ideal, and no matter how much progress you make, it's never enough.
You're constantly scrutinizing yourself, focusing on what's wrong instead of what's right. And that can be incredibly draining, both mentally and emotionally. It's no wonder people are burning out.
Oh, and we can't forget about the role of social media.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
It's like a highlight reel of everyone else's supposedly perfect lives.
Hmm.
And it makes it so easy to fall into the comparison trap. Suddenly your own efforts feel insignificant.
It creates this distorted sense of reality where you're constantly measuring yourself against others' carefully curated online personas. It's a recipe for feeling inadequate, even if you're objectively doing well in your own life.
It's like everyone's got this filter on showing you the best possible version of themselves, and then you're over here feeling like you're not measuring up.
Yeah.
I actually started thinking about this in terms of my own social media habits. Like, how much time am I spending comparing myself to others, and is it actually motivating me or just making me feel worse?
That's such a great question, and it's something we all need to be more mindful of, because if you're constantly bombarded with images of like perfect bodies, perfect relationships, perfect careers, it's easy to start feeling like you're not good enough, and that can really chip away at your self-esteem.
Okay, so we've got unrealistic expectations, perfectionism, and social comparison. Any other big culprits in this self-improvement exhaustion epidemic?
Well, both sources talk about the importance of self-compassion, or rather the lack thereof. We're so quick to criticize ourselves for every little mistake, but we rarely offer ourselves the same kindness and understanding that we would extend to a friend.
Oh, absolutely. It's like we've got this inner critic that's constantly berating us,
Yeah.
and it's exhausting. I'm imagining if I talk to my friends the way I sometimes talk to myself, they'd probably stage an intervention.
Right. And that kind of negative self-talk is not only draining, but it's also incredibly unproductive. It keeps you stuck in a cycle of shame and self-doubt, which makes it even harder to make positive changes in your life.
And then on top of all of that, we're all so overscheduled. It's like we're trying to cram in every possible self-improvement activity into our already jam-packed days, leaving zero time for rest or just, enjoying life.
It's this more is better mentality that can actually be incredibly counterproductive when it comes to self-improvement. There's a real value in slowing down and being more intentional about how we spend our time.
It's funny because both sources actually highlight rest as being crucial,
Yeah.
but the way Titan's Canvas talks about it is really different. They almost make it sound revolutionary.
They do, don't they? It's like they're giving you permission to actually prioritize rest, instead of seeing it as this indulgent thing you squeeze in if you have time.
Yeah, they talk about how true growth actually requires periods of rest and reflection, Like, you can't just constantly be taking in new information and experiences. You need time to process it all and actually integrate it into your life. Otherwise, it's just constant input with no real output.
Exactly. And I think that's something that's often missing from the traditional self-improvement narrative. It's all about pushing yourself, striving for more, but there's very little emphasis on the importance of rest and rejuvenation.
Okay, so we've talked about all the reasons why this best self-pursuit can be so exhausting. Unrealistic expectations, perfectionism, the comparison trap of social media, lack of self-compassion, and overscheduling. But this is where it gets really interesting because what if there's a different way? What if there's a way to approach self-improvement that doesn't leave you feeling depleted and defeated?
That's where Titan's canvas and their permission slip philosophy come in. And trust me, this is not your typical self-help jargon.
Okay, I'm hooked.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this permission slip philosophy.
Well, it's all about giving yourself permission to define success on your own terms. It's about rejecting those external pressures and expectations and instead tuning into your own inner compass.
So it's not about trying to fit into some predetermined mold of what success should look like.
Oh, exactly. It's about recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to self-improvement. What works for one person might not work for another, and that's okay.
This is already making me feel a little lighter, I have to admit. It's like they're saying, hey, it's okay to break free from the mold and create your own path.
Precisely. And a big part of that is cultivating self-compassion. It's about taking a kinder, gentler approach to personal growth.
So less self-criticism, more self-love.
Absolutely. And more importantly, more self-acceptance. It's about embracing yourself as you are, flaws and all, and then building on that foundation.
You know, as we're talking about this permission slip philosophy, it's really hitting me that self-improvement shouldn't feel like a punishment. But that's kind of how it's often presented, right? Like this constant grind of trying to fix everything that's wrong with you.
It's almost like we're conditioned to believe that we're inherently flawed and that we need to constantly strive to become better, more worthy versions of ourselves. But what if we started from a place of self-acceptance instead? What if we acknowledge that we're already whole and complete just as we are?
That's such a powerful shift in perspective. Because if you're already starting from a place of self-acceptance, then self-improvement becomes less about fixing yourself and more about exploring your potential. Right?
Exactly. It's like instead of constantly trying to fit into someone else's mold of what you should be, you're free to create your own unique shape. And that can be incredibly liberating.
It's like you're finally giving yourself permission to just be you, imperfections and all. And then from that foundation of self-acceptance, you can start to make choices that truly align with your values and aspirations.
And those choices might not always look like what society expects of you, but they'll feel authentic and fulfilling because you're not doing them out of a sense of obligation or pressure. You're doing them because they genuinely resonate with who you are at your core.
Okay, so this is all starting to make sense. But I'm curious about the practical side of things. How do we actually implement this permission slip philosophy in our lives?
Yeah.
Like, where do we even begin?
Well, one of the first steps is to reevaluate your goals. Are they truly your goals, or are they goals that you've adopted from someone else? Are they goals that are actually going to bring you joy and fulfillment, or are they just going to add more stress and pressure to your life?
So it's about getting really honest with yourself about what you truly want, not what you think you should want.
Exactly. And once you've identified those authentic goals, then you can start to break them down into smaller, more manageable steps. Remember, it's not about making drastic changes overnight. It's about making small, sustainable changes that you can actually stick with over time.
So instead of trying to overhaul my entire life, I could focus on one small habit change, like adding a 20-minute walk to my day, or finally committing to that meditation practice I've been meaning to try.
Precisely. And even those small changes can have a ripple effect, creating a sense of momentum and motivation that can carry you forward on your journey.
And that's where all those other practical tips we talked about earlier come into play, right? Like prioritizing rest, practicing self-care, setting boundaries.
Absolutely. Those aren't just random tasks on a checklist. They're essential tools for creating a life that feels good on your terms. It's like building a foundation of well-being so that you have the energy and resilience to pursue your goals without burning out.
You know, it's funny. I used to think self-care was kind of selfish, but now I'm realizing that it's actually the opposite. It's like you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're not taking care of yourself, both physically and emotionally, you're not going to be able to show up fully for yourself or for anyone else.
That's such a great point, and it ties back to that idea of self-compassion. It's about recognizing that you're worthy of care and attention and that you deserve to feel good. And when you start treating yourself with that kind of kindness, it creates a ripple effect extending outwards to your relationships, your work, and your community.
It's like that saying, you can't love others until you love yourself. And I think that applies to self-improvement as well. If you're constantly criticizing yourself and focusing on your flaws, it's going to be really hard to make positive changes in your life. But if you can start from a place of self-acceptance and love, then anything is possible.
And that's really the heart of the permission slip philosophy, isn't it? It's about giving yourself permission to be imperfectly perfect, to embrace your own unique journey, and to define success on your own terms.
You know, it strikes me that both sources are addressing this exhaustion from self-improvement, but they're coming at it from totally different angles. The traditional article is very much about identifying the problems and offering solutions, while Titan's Canvas is more about this fundamental mindset shift.
It's almost like they're speaking different languages, but ultimately they're both trying to help us create a more sustainable and fulfilling approach to personal growth.
Yeah, and it's making me wonder which approach is more effective. Or is it about finding a balance between the two?
That's a great question, and I think it's one that each individual has to answer for themselves. What resonates with you? What feels most authentic to your own experience?
And maybe it's not about choosing one or the other. Maybe it's about taking what works from each approach and creating your own personalized self-improvement toolkit.
I love that. It's like you're the architect of your own journey, and you get to decide which tools and techniques you want to use to create the life you envision.
Okay, so we've talked about the problems, the potential solutions, and now the importance of a mindset shift. But here's something I've been wondering about. Both of these sources are focused on the individual's experience of self-improvement. But I'm curious about the bigger picture.
You mean how this fits into the larger cultural context?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why is there so much pressure to constantly be improving ourselves in the first place? Where did this whole self-improvement obsession come from?
That's such a fascinating question, and it's one that we could probably spend an entire deep dive exploring. It really is a topic worthy of its own deep dive. I think it's tied to this idea of the American dream, this belief that anyone can achieve success through hard work and determination. And while there's certainly truth to that, I think it's become kind of distorted over time.
It's like the emphasis has shifted from achieving external success to constantly optimizing ourselves like we're all just projects in progress.
Exactly. And with the rise of social media, it's become even more intense. Now we're not just comparing ourselves to our neighbors and colleagues, we're comparing ourselves to people all over the world, many of whom are presenting highly curated versions of themselves online.
It's no wonder so many of us are feeling exhausted and inadequate. It's like we're all on this never-ending quest for self-improvement, but the goalposts keep moving further and further away.
And the thing is, this constant striving for better can actually prevent us from appreciating what we already have. We're so focused on what we lack, on what we need to change, that we miss out on the joy and beauty of the present moment.
That's so true. I know I'm guilty of that myself.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about the next goal, the next achievement, and I forget to just pause and savor the good things in my life.
And that's where that permission slip philosophy can be so transformative. It's not about giving up on self-improvement altogether. It's about reframing it as a journey of self-discovery rather than a race to some arbitrary finish line.
It's about recognizing that we're already worthy, already enough just as we are, and that from that place of self-acceptance, we can choose to grow and evolve in ways that feel authentic and aligned with our values.
It's about giving ourselves permission to slow down, to rest, to simply be. And in that space of stillness, we might just discover that the most profound transformation happens not when we're striving and pushing, but when we're simply allowing ourselves to be.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. It's really made me think about my own relationship with self-improvement and how I could approach it in a way that feels more nourishing and less exhausting.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, it's an ongoing process. There will be times when you fall back into old patterns of thinking and behaving, and that's okay. Just notice it. Offer yourself some compassion and gently redirect yourself back to that path of self-acceptance and growth.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one key takeaway you hope our listener walks away with today?
I think the most important thing is to remember that you are not a project to be fixed. You are already whole and complete, just as you are. And the journey of self-improvement is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more fully yourself.
I love that. It's about embracing your own unique path, imperfections and all. And maybe, just maybe, giving yourself permission to enjoy the ride.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are so many resources available to support you on your journey, whether it's a therapist, a coach, a supportive friend, or even just a good book.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the exhaustion of self-improvement. We hope this conversation has sparked some new insights and inspired you to approach personal growth in a way that feels more authentic and fulfilling. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep being kind to yourselves.